All right, let's talk about something we've all been through, that virtual machine that just will not connect to the network. It's got to be one of the most frustrating things, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down step by step how to tackle one of the trickiest scenarios out there, troubleshooting the integration between VMware and Cisco ACI. Okay, here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big picture, the whole troubleshooting landscape. Then we'll walk through a really logical three-step process. We'll look inside the VM, then check its settings, then poke around the virtual switch. And it's all going to build up to a solid, methodical approach you can use every time. So you've got a VM that's offline. Where do you even start? I mean, in an environment this complex, with all the moving parts, it can feel pretty overwhelming. The absolute key is to have a structured, repeatable plan. Think of this diagram as our roadmap. Over on the left, you've got all the ACI logical stuff, your tenants, your bridge domains, your EPGs, basically all the policy containers. And way over on the right, that's the physical hypervisor, where our lonely little VM lives. Our whole strategy is to start our journey on the right, inside the VM, and then work our way left, checking every connection point until we get back to the ACI fabric. Now, before you even think about logging into vCenter or the APIC, you gotta pump the brakes. We need to ask these fundamental questions first. This is our ground zero, our baseline for gathering clues. And honestly, these questions are the same whether you're dealing with a brand new VM or an old physical server collecting dust in a rack. All right, let's dive into step one. We are going inside the virtual machine's operating system to do some basic detective work. Okay, check this out. It is amazing how much information you can get with just a few commands. First up, we're pinging the gateway. That's a great first test because ACI policies usually don't block a simple ping. Next, we use IPA to see what IP and MAC address we're working with. Then we check the routing table. And this is absolutely critical. You have to confirm that the link status is up. If that link says it's not up, you've already learned something huge. The problem probably isn't inside the OS itself. And here's a handy cheat sheet for you. These are the go-to commands for all those checks we just did in Linux. You'll see the old school ifconfig stuff and the newer IP commands. The main point here is that while the tools might look a little different, the fundamental questions we're asking are exactly the same. So what if you're living in a Windows world? No problem. The process is almost identical. The ipconfig command is your best friend here. It gives you a nice, clean breakdown of the IP address, the subnet mask, and of course that all-important default gateway. So here's the command list for Windows. And the big takeaway is pretty clear, right? It doesn't matter if it's Linux or Windows. The core principles of checking the IP, the gateway, the routes, and the ARP table, that stuff is universal. Okay, on to step two, checking the VM's actual settings. Now, if the OS told you the link was down, our next question is simple. It's the virtual equivalent of asking, hey, is the cable plugged in? Seriously, this is it. And let me tell you, you would be absolutely shocked at how often this is the root cause of the problem. It doesn't matter if you're in the new fancy web UI or the old school FAT client, you have got to find the network adapter settings and make sure that little connected box is checked. Time for step three. We're moving out to investigate the vSwitch. This is the crucial bridge that connects our little virtual world inside the server to the big physical network outside. Now, this is super important. You have to know what kind of vSwitch you're dealing with. A standard vSwitch is simple. You configure it on each host one by one. But if you want to unlock the real magic of ACI's Virtual Machine Manager integration, where ACI can automatically push network policies right down to the hypervisor, for that, you absolutely need a distributed vSwitch, or DVS. That ability for the fabric to automate the config is a complete game changer. So let's break down what's actually happening on a vSwitch. It's pretty straightforward, really. Your VMs use their virtual NICs to connect into something called a port group. The easiest way to think of a port group is just as a layer 2 network, usually mapped to a single VLAN. Then, the entire vSwitch uses its physical uplinks, what VMware calls VMNICs, to talk to the rest of the world. And the best part is, you can see this whole chain right from inside vCenter. This view lets you check the vSwitch config. You can see all the VLANs on the port groups, and this is a total lifesaver. You can inspect the physical uplink adapter itself. You can see its status, and you can even discover what physical switch it's plugged into using protocols like CDP. How cool is that? Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's pull it all together and just quickly recap the methodical approach we've walked through. Hey, remember our map from the beginning? We did exactly what we set out to do. We started our investigation way over on the right inside the VM's operating system. And then we methodically worked our way out, layer by layer, checking the OS, the VM settings, the vSwitch, the port group, and finally the physical uplink, getting closer and closer to that ACI fabric on the left. So if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this inside-out process. Always start inside the OS. Then verify the VM settings. Then you can inspect the vSwitch. When you follow these steps in order, you stop guessing and you start being a detective. You're following the clues, and trust me, you are going to isolate the problem so much faster. See, this methodical approach really does transform troubleshooting. It takes that frantic, panicked guessing game and turns it into a calm, repeatable science. You start small, you gather your facts, and you work your way out, layer by layer. So the next time a VM goes dark, you'll have the map, and you'll know exactly where to begin.